Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's office hours. Guess what? We are still in Nassau, Bahamas. Ooh, man, I'm feeling good. Look at that backdrop. I'm tucked away in an interior space right now where you're inside, but you still have that beautiful view.
Yes.
So today's office hours, Meredith and I have been talking, and we figured, why not have the conversation around relationships? It's something we haven't really covered. I don't think at all. Have we talked about relationships?
Not really. I don't think so. We've talked a lot about money, which is my favorite topic. But no, relationships not so much. And I gotta go ahead and give us some likes, Angel. Hold up. Okay, you keep going. I'm going to make sure we get our likes.
Yes, you give us some life and likes. So
some love.
One of the things that I think is very important when it comes to building a business is looking at your environment, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, and what is the support system that you have, right? And that support comes in various forms. It comes in the people that you network with. It comes in the form of who do you just have in your circle, whether it's your friends or your family. But then also that relationship extends to your spouse, or if you're dating somebody, or if you just want to be in a relationship. So at the Vision 2020 conference or retreat, one of the things that we did that was brand new for this year was our all-male panel titled Who's the Boss? And we wanted to examine how men and women interact, but we wanted to hear it from the male's perspective. One thing that I noticed was there are a lot of multi-million-dollar business women who do not have sustainable relationships. And so I wanted to pose a question: why? Why do we see this? And what causes them to not be as successful in that space? And so what we found was really, really interesting from the panel. I know even up till last night we had got together and people are still talking about this panel and the things that the men had to say. So what was the most enlightening thing that you found?
I don't know if we can even repeat the things that were... Like, what is the confidentiality agreement with the panel? Because, yeah, it was... I have to say, first of all, Angel did a incredible job, to use my Minnesota language, a yeoman's job at really having what could be a very difficult conversation, right? Because I think one of the things that we've talked about is that I really try to always come from a place of love. I try to never come from a place of judgment. I try to be open that everybody's path is going to be different. And I'm really comfortable with the fact that my path is going to be different from everybody else's, right? But I think when it comes to relationships, that is an area right next to our jobs where we do end up kind of being competitive and comparing ourselves to others. And so it was a really interesting panel for me because you had three. Well, I think that's a part of that was part of the aha. Was that I think we thought we had more diversity in the relationships, in the traditional status. Follow me, folks. I'm going to use the word very intentionally here. In the traditional status, legal status, as we think about it, right? And what we heard from the men was like, maybe they're defining things differently. Would that be a fair way to say it? Like the evolution of their relationships. For me, I think that was the biggest on the panel. Like, there were people who were in relationships. Can I just recap it without putting names with it? Should we do it that way?
Yeah, go for it.
So we had one individual who, it is a spiritual conference. Not, I wouldn't say religious, right? More spiritual than religious. But we had one person who was a spiritual leader who's in a committed relationship and had an adoring and loving spouse, and was really able to talk about how he and his spouse have been able to trade off over time and what roles they played for them to be successful as individuals and as a couple. We had another individual who had been divorced but currently married. We had another individual who this is the second marriage, and was very comfortable saying that was unhappy in the marriage. I think the shocker for a lot of us, for a man, to acknowledge that they are in a sexless marriage. I'm going to give you a second if you're listening, because everybody in the audience was like, what did he say, girl? What did he just say? And then we had a person who is in a committed, loving, adoring relationship and talked about how he views his partner as a helpmate, and how that individual has really helped him to come into his purpose and into his being. And not in a traditional marriage sense, but in a commitment that he's identified a partner that he feels like the universe has brought here for him. And he's been able to see in a very short amount of time the impact of having that love, not only in his life, but in his business. And I think that each of them brought such a unique perspective to the conversation, and were so incredibly honest on a topic that I think for a lot of us is very vulnerable. And I know for myself, I'm very private about my relationships. In Getting Unstuck, I don't talk that much about my relationships with my family, with anybody. You know, it really is about, when you are stuck, it's about yourself. And so to have a conversation from a man's perspective about how they view the woman in their life as either in support of their vision, or what happens when they're at odds with their vision, has been, I think, was really enlightening. But I see Angels come back. What were your thoughts? My relationships with my family.
Hold on, Meredith. I clicked off
when you are stuck.
So keep talking. Let me get this back up. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see. Yes, it's me on the thing. So Angel's getting through all of our amazing tech. You know, one of the things that I thought when we were going through it, so one of the examples, we covered it a little bit earlier on the other office hours, came from Delano Johnson, who's an incredible author. I wish I could put his book up, but it is Refused to Live, Talented and Broke. And he offered these definitions of a relationship that I know were new to me, but I am planning to read the book. And I plan to go to Getting Unstuck Guide. One of my things I'm going to do while I'm traveling this week is to give you the reading list of all of the people that were there, because Angel curated such an incredible group of speakers, and many of them have books that you can take home with you. But he gave 3 examples. One was a garden relationship, right? Traditional garden relationship, which is that a man has a vision and the woman is there to help him bring that vision to life. The second was a millennial relationship, where it was 2 separate people and they maybe come together on the weekend, and he shared what were the in all of them, what were the potentials for something to go wrong. And then in the third, it was reverse garden, where the woman has the vision and the man is the helpmate to help her achieve that in whatever way that could look like. And it was really a fascinating way to think about it, because again, going back to the beginning, for myself, I won't speak for anybody else, but I know I came into it with the traditional single, married, dating, divorced, right? Widowed. I'll add that to you, right? If your spouse is taken away from you in death. So it was an interesting, completely shift for me on relationships, and I think just for understanding the people that you potentially work with, that there are people who see it differently than just, well, marriage is marriage to everybody. That, I think, is where a lot of people get stuck. But I see my beautiful co-host is back up, Angel. So what were your thoughts as the moderator? I mean, and before I say that, let me just tell you again how Angel was just like, if you haven't seen the picture of her with the dudes behind her, I mean, it was just running it.
You're silly. No, thank you, Meredith. No, I mean, like, for me, I felt like I appreciated them for coming and being a part of the conversation. Because a lot of times people will be like, nah, I don't know what that's going to look like. Nope, not going to do that, right? So the fact that they were open and willing to be a part of the conversation spoke volumes, right?
Especially in a room full of women. For the people who weren't there, that's the part you have to understand. These are women they don't know. They haven't necessarily heard anything else that was said.
Their journey, in each.
Yes.
Right.
So how much trust they put in you to go up there and be honest and not get attacked. But please continue.
Yeah. And so Okay, so I think for me, the interesting part was the post conversation and hearing how they just said how I felt like I would be failing you if I went up there and I was not completely transparent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think because of that, we got some very rich and enriching content. You know, I don't think that the one guy went up to talk about, you know, being in a sexless marriage for a decade. Um, or the individual who talked about, you know, losing everything and losing his wife in the process because of the expectations that went along with what it means to be the man of the house, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's important that when we look at our relationships, we understand not only what we're bringing to the table, but also what's expected from our partners. And mm-hmm. having those clear conversations around what does this mean for our household? Because our household and how we live and what our expectations does not have to be the same for everybody else. But you have mm-hmm. to have those kind of hard conversations to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I think for me, that was like very interesting. But on the flip side, the interesting part was we only had one, but I think that there's always one in the bunch that wants to kind of control the conversation and answer what they want to answer instead of what was asked. That didn't go over too well. But look at Meredith's face. Yeah, I think that with me as a moderator, if I ask a particular question, it's with intention. And it's mm-hmm. not just so you can reroute the question to what you're more comfortable answering. Yes. And I think that was one of the things, and I'll share, that question was around married men being interested and pursuing women and not being open and honest with what their marital status is. And because it was a very spiritually based retreat, I was told we shouldn't focus on that because that's not, you know, essentially I felt like the person was saying that's not what the Bible tells us to do. Okay, understood. But this is the reality, and this is where we are, and this is what happens. So real talk. This is who's on this panel. This is the question that's before you. So, you know, they kind of had no choice but to delve into it. So I think we got some very authentic responses. So, yeah.
What came to me when you were saying that, Angel, was I think what I heard throughout all of the panelists who on some level expressed some satisfaction in their relationships. Mm-hmm. Fair?
Yeah.
Like, even though they were all different, nobody got up there. Well, maybe that's not true.
Well, I didn't feel like anybody got up there and was like,
it's terrible, I gotta get out.
Relationships and
Yeah. So there was some, maybe it's not satisfaction, maybe peace. Mm-hmm. But all of them expressed some level of courage, right? That they, even in just being up and sharing it publicly, that it takes courage. It's so vulnerable in relationships. It really does take a level of courage to say, 1, what you want, 2, what you're willing to do, and then 3, to actually do it, right? The other thing I heard all of them talk about on some level, although it was different, was commitment. And it was their commitment to themselves, their own happiness, their own journey. I remember the example of Delano talking about how he always opens Monique's door. And that's his commitment, right? To himself was what he said, that he's been in other situations where he's changed that. And it made him understand, I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm lowering the way I treat my partner. I want to be in a relationship where my partner wants me to do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there was a third one that just came through so clear. And that was really, having the confidence to love somebody even when it's not going well. Right? And I think that was such a powerful thing to hear, because I think for women, let me not even say for women, But when you look at the panel, and to your point of you were the only woman on the stage with these men, and for the people who weren't there, you know, I love studying gender and how that shows up in communications. And so for you to be the moderator, for you to be for your event, and to watch the men try to change the question or make it fit the answer they wanted to give. I'm going to go ahead and say that. And the way that you masterfully pulled it back to be like, yes, but that's not the question I asked. You know, there is a confidence that's required to even start to talk about relationships. And if you're not willing to be confident, if you're not willing to make that commitment, then it really is kind of a useless conversation, because you can just talk about, oh, you know, all of the nice things. But in reality, I thought what we got out of it was that relationships are difficult, but they're always worth it.
Yeah.
Because you grow in them.
Right.
So I just wanted to offer that because I thought that was such a powerful thing that you pulled out of them. But in the beginning, you always get distracted with the traditional, well, what is dating? Well, what is marriage? Well, when can I do this? And when can I touch it? When can I? And you got past all of that. I mean, for real, I just got into like, well, what is this? And what's appropriate? But in reality, it's so much deeper than that about how are you helping somebody?
Right.
And if you're not helping them, isn't that hurting them?
Right. And it goes
that
back
deep.
to...
I need some likes on that one.
You did. You got some. I'm not sure exactly... well, to your point, I think that the helpmate situation further explained why you would want to be in a relationship with somebody, right? Like the visions, the gardens, the millennial, that whole thing. Knowing which relationship you're in and why.
Well, yes.
And making sure that everybody is kind of clear on, baby, you can take the front line here. Like, I just want to be able to support you because I see the vision that you have. And clearly you have a stronger vision than my vision. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
I think that was the beauty of what you got out of it, in that the panel was about how do you support powerhouse women. And that, I think, Angel, is the gender piece, right?
Yeah.
That our vision is that the men is the only one to have the vision. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Sometimes women got it.
And I think sometimes that's where there is failure in relationships. Because you are not being true to who you are. And you're trying to submit, which there's nothing wrong with submitting to your partner. But you have to understand in which way you're submitting. If you're the one that has a calling on your life, and not to say that he's bad or he doesn't have a relationship with God or whatever the case may be, you still have to be true to who you are, just like you gave the example of Delana opening the door. If that's ingrained in him and he looks at that as, this is how I show that I'm a man and I'm going to take care and I'm going to provide for this one right here because she is mine, then he has to feel that. When you start taking away from somebody the natural things that they want to do and it shows them or it allows them to be who they know they are, then you're stripping away like the very essence of what makes them who they are. So you can't expect somebody to always be like, to go along with it. We make modifications, and I think that we make concessions, right? We'll say, okay, you know what? For the peace, we're going to go this way. Or, you know, we're going to do X, Y, or Z. But I think that it's imperative that we also take the time to be like, you know what? You have to take account of what's important to you. And you can't alter your values. You can't alter the core of who you are. You can, again, you can play nice in the sandbox, but at the end of the day, it's only going to be so long that you can do certain behaviors before it just becomes like you feel like you've lost you.
Which is a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it is. I think it is such a interesting piece that you bring up there. In that, what I heard, just to piggyback off what you said, was that it is absolutely not that the helpmate does not have a vision, but some people's vision is to help. Like I think of Dr. King and Coretta Scott King, right? She is just as incredible. You can look at Barack and Michelle. That's not a millennial, right? That's not a millennial relationship. And it's not to say, I think, it's not to say that Barack's vision is bigger than Michelle's. But who knows that that wasn't Michelle's vision and she's just helping him. You know what I mean? So I thought it was such...
Wait. Let me go. I'm gonna take us somewhere real quick.
Go with it. Yeah, girl, get deep. Let me get ready.
It is very possible that that is a reverse garden relationship. And like you said, that her vision was to groom this man into being where he was. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because you have the vision doesn't mean that you're the person that has to be in the front lines. So I think that that's the other thing that gets misconstrued is that I have the vision, so I'm the star of the show. No, not necessarily. Your vision could be, how am I going to shape whatever the circumstances or whatever the situation is so that we can grow and be where we ultimately need and want to be. So I think this is a great time. Chris, thank you for your comment. She said this is an important conversation. If you guys have any questions or you want to add to the conversation and you have thoughts that you really want us to really be able to say, like, yes, we agree, or here's some things that we, from our experience, might want to add to your repertoire, your toolkit, to be able to look at relationships in a different perspective, or you just want to share. We would love to hear from you. So type your comments out. Yes. So, what were we saying? Oh, so yes, that reverse garden is serious.
Yeah,
I really do.
Well, and I think too, it's such a for me, I think it highlights what I realize every day I get older, which is all of the things you don't learn when you're younger. Right? Like, I'm not going to say my age because I don't count. And if you try to figure it out, then you're just an evil person and you don't agree with my values. So I release you. But, I think for me, I'm always like, when were we supposed to learn this?
Right.
When do you learn about relationships? When do you learn how to be in a relationship? When do you learn how to support somebody who, so one of the I won't even put, because people said things in that room, and I think you really foster a level of confidentiality. But I'll say for myself, right? I know when I had the vision that I was going to write my book, I was going to finally sit down, I was going to do this. My youngest was 1, the oldest one was 3. And when I told my husband, he was like, yes. If you believe you can do it, first of all, let's be clear. What am I asking of him? Right? Really, it seems like nothing. But you take it for example, if I'm here, my kids aren't here. Like, that's him supporting me, right? And so I think this idea of what does it look like? What are you comfortable with? And how do you have that conversation in a way that you're open to the fact that you don't know? There's so much we don't know and so much that we can define for ourselves. But I think what I heard each of the panelists say is that the danger or the problem is when you don't talk about it, when you suffer in silence, when you have a dream and you're with a partner that you don't want to tell that dream to, when you're pursuing that vision and you can't even say, this is what I'm doing. So I thought that was what was so powerful about what each of them said. And what I thought was so interesting as a mom of boys was how much affirmation and love and the comment about, like, it's one thing to hear a woman on the street say I look good. I want to hear my wife say it. And how much that meant to them, just that need for pouring into. So I think that idea that goes both ways. Right. I think we feel that way about women. I feel like I'm always like, don't you want to say I look nice today? But to think that men think that way too was really and grown men
most definitely. But I think men often forget that, like you just said, that we need it. I think that when you are used to walking down the street, whether you're with him or not, and men compliment you when they say, oh, well, did your husband know how lucky he is? Does he tell you how beautiful you are? You hear it all the time. But he just assumes, oh, well, she doesn't need to hear from me. She hears it all the time. No, it matters. Like, women want to know that the person that they've chosen that they're going to be with and that they're with that they have a level of admiration for them, that they desire them. That is a thing. And how we ended up on the conversation about the person revealing their being in a sexless marriage was a conversation that the question was, well, what happens, or why is it that there are so many women in sexless marriages where the women want to have sex, but their husbands either aren't interested or they're not able to perform? And we went into the doctor was able to go into detail as to why that happens. And so I think it is very important that we have these dialogues around, what is expected. Like I said, you have to tell your partner, like, yo, look, sex may not be important to you, but honey, I want to have sex. You have to be able to have those conversations. And that's another, did you talk about how in that millennial relationship, most often those relationships end in affairs because they're only coming together.
Did he say that? I thought he said they were more prone to.
Well, okay, more prone.
Yeah. I think in each of them they can be successful. No, I mean, I do. I think he was saying, cautionary if you don't have the right communications and guidelines, right?
True.
Just to be fair.
All right, so we have a comment from Ms. Danielle. She says, you have to have a partner who is not threatened by bucking the status quo. Layering gender dynamics and cultural standards makes it complicated. What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, certainly. I think, just the idea of there are countries where it's okay for men to have multiple wives, but not for a wife to divorce her husband. I mean, so there's a reason I got freedom on my wrist. I mean, there's a thing for women have historically been property. We've been owned by men. And so an idea that you can have a relationship where it can be equal might not be not only what that man is used to, but it might not be what his family is used to, what his friends are used to, what that culture is used to. And so I think not only does it take bucking the gender norms, I think it takes an incredible level of confidence. I mean, that man has to really feel like it's okay for me to be sitting on the side and not on the stage. That takes nothing away from me. They have to see a purpose in their own life and not just have the purpose of owning property.
Right.
What do you think?
I mean, I think, it kind of goes back to, those old traditions where they say what goes on in this house stays in this house. And you decide what works for you in your relationship. I ain't gonna do that. Yeah, that's what I would say. I think that it's up to you to decide.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that's a good point too. No, to the point of, I was saying earlier, and somebody, thank you, Chris. Chris said we have to stop considering leveling up failure. Ooh, Chris, say more about that. Hello, tell me more. What I was going to say is, I was saying I don't talk about relationships, right? That's not a thing I talk about because I do think it's private. I do think that when you start to talk about that, one, it's nobody else's business. Two, I really don't care what anybody else thinks. And three, I think that I think we all can, it's hard not to pass judgment, right, on others. And so I think one of the things that was important was going back to what you said in the first place. There's one commitment that you have with your partner about what are we doing. There's another one about now what are we telling everybody else?
Right.
Because if you're saying we're one-on-one and then out here you're saying, hey man, that is not. Yeah, right. And that takes courage, right, to say that I'm at a point where I want to be out doing all of this, and how do you feel about that? There's nothing wrong with that, but I think where people get stuck is that you don't have the clarity within yourself about what you want.
Right.
To be able to first say for yourself, I deserve to have a conversation about what I'm not comfortable with, and have the creativity to offer what's a solution.
Right.
I think that's where you get stuck. If it's just, I'm just going to sit here. You had this with me with a client yesterday. If you get stuck on bringing up just the problem, the solution going to be, you don't be here no more.
Right.
So, Chris, I want to hear more about this leveling up because what does that mean? Like, what do you think? Is she like leveling up your relationship?
So before, I'm gonna let Chris, if she wants to give a little bit more context to that. Well, she says we also have to realize that traditions, societal and religious norms aren't always right. We have a normal sense of right and wrong. We should use it. I totally agree. That was actually one of the things that we talked about at the retreat, was that, God didn't create governments to rule us.
Yes.
It's supposed to be, we're supposed to self-govern ourselves. And if we're supposed to self-govern ourselves, what does this look like? Why are we relying on society to set these standards for how we should behave? And so going back to the relationship, we have to decide what that looks like in our home and with the partnerships that we have created. And so I think I'm trying to stay in a space here.
Oh Lord, don't get Angel off.
Trying to stay in this space.
I told you this ain't my thing. I like to talk about money. See, she didn't like to talk about money.
You picked
so
the
we
topic,
got through all of that.
You picked the topic. You picked this.
Well.
So I would say this.
Because I'm courageous.
I feel like with relationships, one of the issues with women who are successful, which is part of the reason why we had this conversation, when a woman has the vision, when a woman knows in her heart who she is and what she is supposed to be accomplishing, and when she doesn't have the fear of going out to get the work done, if you are surrounded by people who don't understand, who are telling you, girl, you crazy, or why are you spending all this time doing X, Y, or Z? Why are you not spending more time, cooking me dinner, or, going out on dates and being with the kids?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I feel like you have to be in a relationship with somebody who understands, like, okay, even if we're both busy, somebody has to pick up and say, you know what, you've been working really hard today, or this week, or this month, or you just came off of this big event. I plan to get away, for us. Or here's a spa day. I got the kids. You need somebody who can look at the situation across the board and say, here's how I want to love you. I know that you're busy. I know that you have all these other things going on, but I need you to take a break. And this is how I need us to share our time together. Creating a space where there is no room for that person to feel like you don't care. Because a lot of times when you have these visions and you're going after your goals and you're grinding and you're getting it, especially when you start to succeed, then the person will look back and be like, well, wait a second. What's happening? How is all this happening? And they're not included. So that's the other part of it. Include your mates in the process if they want to be included. Always ask. Don't, shut anybody out. Ask them, like, yo, this is what's going on. I want you to be a part. And actually, I think that Danielle does a great job of this with her nonprofit. I don't know if Danielle, you're still there, but with her nonprofit, her husband helps with the renovations and he shows up. And so when a person feels like they're actively engaged in the vision and they're able to walk with you in alignment with you, then I think that makes it like we're joining together to create success. But when they start to feel shut out and you're steady pressing forward and they're steadily like kind of on the back end, then they start to lose, one, who you are, and two, you stop sharing. Because at whatever point you're like, yo, I was going to be here for you. I wanted us to do this together. You didn't show interest, but this is where we are. This is the reality. And so I think that Danielle said, yes, he's great. And I think that that's really important. When you're building a business, a lot of times it's not just a business, it's the legacy. It's the relationship that you are building with the people that you are with. So I encourage people, if the person that you're with is your helpmate, allow them to help. Don't shut them out. Allow them to grow and build with you.
Yeah, I love that. Chris had a couple comments. You want to read them off?
Go ahead. I'm posting it for you. Go ahead.
Okay, we also have to realize that traditions and societal and religious norms aren't always right. We have a natural sense of right and wrong. We should use it. Yes, we have to fulfill our purposes. We can't hold ourselves back by trying to stay in situations that were meant for a season. Go get yours. Getting to the next level not only helps you, but all those who are counting on you.
Yes.
She also has a question for you, Angel. She says, I'm sorry I missed the Bahamas. When's the next one? I want to know that too, Chris.
We are in planning. I'm waiting on them to get back to me on our dates. But it's probably, I think they said February 19th. So we'll see.
I'll be here. Yes, you have to build a winning team, Chris said. Yes, I will say yes to all of it, man. Totally yes to it. I think the thing about it is, I think powerhouse. Okay, once again, I only speak for myself, right? Angel and I are very different, right? So we've been talking about you need a thinker, a doer, a
thinker, a doer. Think, do, talk.
A thinker, a doer, a talker. You can tell us which one you think that each of us are. But
yeah, actually, we want to know. Write it in the comments. Which of those, thinker, doer, talker? Which am I? What is Meredith? And what are you? What do you think you're?
And what are you? Yes, because either way, there's two of us, and we need a third. But I think that idea of a winning team, and how many of us, when you're picking a partner, do you think about it in the sense of, I want a winning team, and what the hell are you trying to win?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that becomes a real crux, right? Because when you have a powerhouse woman, right? Again, I'm gonna use myself for an example. That book, Getting Unstuck done, that was it. That was it. For the time that I needed to get that book done, that was the goal. Everything else had to line up behind that goal. That was not a goal I had when I took marriage vows. Right? So you have to be with somebody who's going to let you evolve, right? Just piggybacking on what you said, because one is you sharing the vision, but two, it's them not holding you to, well, that ain't what you said 25 years ago. Well, honey, I'm not the same person I was 25 years ago. And I think we heard from quite a few people in the audience who had been in relationships and stayed in them and had found growth in the lack of. So I want to offer that for somebody that I think you and I are both, well, I'm going to start with me because we already know Angel has said in past episodes, she's a now type of person, right? And I am, my thing is I like to be brief, I like to be brilliant, and I like to be bold. I don't like to spend time, right? It's just very direct. That's got to be hard for somebody else, right? To have somebody that is so decisive, that is so this. But I think it was interesting for me, being of that mindset, to hear people who said, I stayed in it, I took care of my spouse, they got sick, they were abusive to me, they were mean to me, but I learned something in that. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, Angel, was, what was your reaction hearing that? And before we say that, just to respond to what Chris said about getting out of a situation, there was a speaker who came down, and somebody in the audience started reading about a virtuous woman being one that takes care of your spouse in spite of, that never leaves, that I'm not going to do the Bible verse because obviously
it's long.
I don't have it memorized. And neither did the person because they read it off of an iPad, so let's not. But what were your thoughts?
Which part?
On just the diversity of, we make our decisions that might be a little bit more decisive about relationships, but for the people who recognize that the situation is not what they want, but they stay in there and find a growth or a peace in that, yeah, just what's your reaction to that?
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that, because I'm a doer and I'm a flighter. Like, because if it ain't working, I'm gone. That's just me. I applaud the speaker. I think I'm going to put some clips up, because for people who miss Vision 2020,
y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know. If you miss Vision 2020, this was a once in a lifetime, and y'all just better 2021. You better hope she give you a recap video. Because can I just say this, Angel? Because the video, as somebody who, can I give my testimony on Vision 2020?
Yes.
Real quick. I decided that I was going to go to Vision 2020 as soon as Angel told me about it, which was in September, when I was in DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was still kind of on the fence. I put it on the schedule. I said, you remember this? There was a client I was going after. I prayed on it. It took a long time. And I said, if the universe gives me this client, I'm going to go and invest in myself and do this. I'm going to take a sign that this is meant for growth and that this is meant for vision. And I want to say, for somebody, I do this all the time, where I'll make these commitments to myself that I'm going to invest in myself, I'm going to do in all of this. And then you find yourself sitting at the computer watching the recap. Because you didn't take action, right? And so I think that's the part that I want to empower somebody with, is that it's one thing to watch these things, it's one thing to watch a recap, but when you're in the room, the relationships are the reason you travel. In addition to restoring yourself in a beautiful place, it's the people, it's the connections, it's the things that aren't on the video that we can't even talk about, because it was that powerful and life-changing. So that's all. I just had to... Chris responded and said, she's just meeting me. Hey, Chris. And so she doesn't know if I'm a talker or a thinker. Okay, I respect that. Or a doer. But if she knows that Angel is a doer. That's what I said. Angel is a doer. This woman makes things happen. What do you think,
you told
Angel?
me I'm the talker.
I'm the talker?
You said I'm the talker.
That's what I said originally. I said I was the doer, you're the talker. That was my first one. You do a very good... First of all, if you've ever been in a restaurant with Angel, should we just go ahead? If you've ever needed anything, can I give them the example of I'm a vegetarian? Is there a jealous emoji? Oh yeah. You should, Chris, jealousy, I'm not going to, I don't receive jealousy, but I do, I hope you don't regret it and miss it again, because I would love to meet you and spend time with you. But Angel, I'm a vegetarian. It has been extraordinarily difficult here. I've had to sacrifice a salmon and a crab. And it was terrible. It was delicious to eat it. It was terrible to experience it. But Angel, not only as a friend, but she goes in a restaurant like, you're going to find something for my friend to eat. Why don't you go in the back? You go, have you ever had lettuce? Okay, so I need you to go get some lettuce. I need you to go get some tofu. I need you to go get some... But it comes from a place of not only love, but expectation. You expect excellence.
Right.
Because that is what you bring to people. So just offer that. Angel is a person that I would follow Angel into war, because... it ain't gonna go bad for her. It ain't gonna go bad for her. She ain't gonna lose. That's one thing.
So
Chris said, oh yeah, she talks too. She said, just a joke, all love. I know, Chris. Chris, we're already friends. I hope you agree. I would receive being a talker. I am a speechwriter. I do communications. Maybe that's a problem I solve.
What?
I help you talk.
Okay. So, at the event, what I was going to say before, one of the ladies came down and she shared her testimony. And this is one that I probably will do a clip of and share. She went through a lot. And with her husband. And she stayed with her husband until he recently passed. And for me, I think that's admirable. I couldn't have done it. But I think it's admirable. And I think that her blessings manifested because she stayed. And so with that, I think that you have to know what the anointing is on your life. If it is meant for you to kind of weather through whatever the storm is. I say that I'm not built for that. That's just not me. I'm the type of person where if it's not working, and it's not like it has to be anything drastic, nothing like what this lady went through, and I still left. And I mentioned this on the last show, like, I went through a divorce last year, but it was not this was an abusive relationship or this person was cheating. It was nothing like that, and I'm cool with him. I have nothing bad that I would say about him, but it's for me. I know what I need, and I'm not willing to sell my needs short because I said I do. And as we said earlier, we grow, we evolve. And if somebody is not able to evolve with you, then you find yourself in a place of, how can I still be great and still fit into this box? So it's almost like you're living a double life. When you go out into the world, you're this, that, and the other, and you're able to do amazing things, but you almost have to come back home and shrink yourself to fit into an equation where you don't want anybody to feel like they're not enough. And I never want to make anybody feel like you're not doing enough or you're not great in your own right, because you are. You just aren't great for me. And I have to be big enough to be able to say, okay, if this isn't necessarily what I need, if I'm not being fulfilled on the levels in which I feel as though I need to be, what am I doing? Because now I'm not only not being fair to myself, but now I'm not being fair to you either. Because you want something that I can't give you. And I want something that you can't give me. So I'd rather part ways and say, you know what? I got 2 beautiful children out of this. We good. I don't have no hard feelings towards you. But I want you to be great. And I want you to have somebody that makes you feel great. And for me, I had to be a strong enough person to say, regardless, going back to what we said earlier, what society thinks and how people are going to look at me, I can't worry about that. I have to worry about my soul. I have to worry about, am I being fed what I need, and do I have the right person by my side that's going to support me and ride with me through wherever life is going to take me. So I think that that's only something that you can answer for yourself. I don't condone divorce. I'm not somebody who's like, yo, you have to do what's right for you. Nobody else can tell you. Don't allow your mama to come into the conversation. Don't allow your friends to come into the situation because they don't live in your house.
Hello.
So,
yeah. No, I think that's totally. Yeah, I love that. So we got a couple of comments. Chris said that she's a thinker. Don't get her started on ideas. She said, amen, don't feel bad. Keep your head up and keep moving forward. Some encouragement from Chris. I was thinking, too, as you were saying that, there is something to this idea of self-love and having a relationship with yourself. And what I thought when I heard her testimony, that was, I had to leave the room. I mean, I was crying. It was hard to hear. And the message that I got in that was that we all have our own trials, right? And so one of the stories I shared at the retreat that I hadn't talked about before publicly was when I went from having double, triple to quadruple vision and eventually was not able to see. And one of the things that happened when I went through that trial is that I decided that there was going to be a threshold to how much I was going to do to myself, right? If the universe can do this to me. And so I think that your experiences definitely color what you are willing to go through, right? And the good doctor had an example about some people, hit the wall, they try to push through it, which I think is what he said I thought I did, which is relevant. That some people see the wall and go around it, and that might change the journey. Some people see the wall and are repelled by it, and they never even try to push forward. And I do think that it is so important, not only the self-love, but, I start with all my clients around self-awareness. That's why there are so many questions in Getting Unstuck that are around, what do you want? What does the relationship look like to you? What makes you happy? What do you need from somebody else for you to be satisfied? And even one of the questions we asked in the group, which I find as we go through, is always the one that gets the most, well, there's 2 questions that get the most like gut-wrenching. One is, are you happy in your relationships, right? Are you doing a good job? And then the other one is, are you doing everything you can for your well-being? And I think there is something in that I always say you have to participate in your own rescue. So if you are in a situation and you cannot get out, you can always love yourself. You don't need to ask anybody's permission for that. You don't need to do anything other than make a decision that the most important relationship that you're going to prioritize is the one with yourself. And let that relationship be secondary until you really get to a place where you're confident enough to say, this is what I want and this is why I deserve it, right? It's one thing to just say like, oh, I want to be a princess. Well, girl, go do it. How do you do that? I offer that. Yes, Meredith, self-love and self-awareness are powerful and essential. Thank you, Chris. Oh, we got one from Sheila. Did you see that one, Angel?
Yep, go ahead. You can read it.
Oh, you want me to do it? Y'all see how Angel's letting me like do stuff today?
Shut up.
I love it. I dealt with narcissistic behavior. This is Sheila. I dealt with narcissistic behavior for 10 years. It was so bad that I didn't have an identity. Now I'm feeling as if I'm trying to do everything that I wasn't allowed to do in the marriage. Yes, I said aloud. I gave him that much control. Thank God it's over. What are some things that I can do to get back to being me? God bless you, Sheila. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the honesty. Angel, I'm going to give that one to you first.
Yes. Right? I know you were looking down. You ain't seen my happy dance. So some of the things that you can get back to being you is journaling. Take the time, just start writing. One of my girlfriends, she does like creative writing first thing in the morning. Just whatever comes to mind. Just spend a little time with yourself, just writing. Whatever comes to mind. Don't even worry about it. Don't think about if it makes sense. Just write. The other thing that I would challenge you to do is to think back to when you were a little girl. And think about what it was that you felt most happy doing. Like, go back to that happy place and really, like, get in touch with that inner child again. Because it's in that space that you'll really recognize, like, yo, this is what being me really is. All of us have a time in our lives where either we had trauma, amazing experiences, or that most memorable time. Dig deep and just go back there and rekindle with her. A lot of times I'll say, like, in the mirror, just write, I am beautiful. I love the girl within. Because, not to get too spiritual, but if you look at things that God created He created you as a little girl first. The woman was built. You had to grow into the woman. The same thing with seeds, right? The tree grows from the earth into a tree, right? But within that tree, it's chairs, it's furniture, it's all these amazing things that you can create. So God gives us like all of our innate and personal gifts inside of us. But we get it in that infancy form. So your girl. So if you tap back into her, then you'll be able to say, like, okay, these are all things that I love, and these are the core of who I am. Before society started coming in and giving me an applause over here or telling me that this is right over here, you knew what you naturally enjoyed doing. So go back to that Sheila, that 5 or 6 or 7 year old Sheila, and really be able to say, like, okay, this is me. And so, like, if you've been like dibbling and dabbling in things that you're trying to find yourself, I would stop trying to do outward things and start doing more inward things, because it's in the outward things that you're going to end up probably more hurt, because you're going to be doing things where you're like, but you'll be exploring and trying to get a gist of like what you enjoy doing, but you're not going to find satisfaction there. And it sounds like you're looking to make sure that you're being fulfilled, but it goes back to that self-love. Nothing is going to fill that void until you tap into and say, okay, this is what I need, and you're able to fulfill all of those needs for yourself. Like, I think yesterday I posted a picture on Facebook that was just like, self-love is the best love. Because once you have that self-love, it's nothing that anybody can take from you. It's within you. And so once you identify how you can give yourself that, you're good to go. And then you can explore, and you can do all the amazing things that you want to do. But I would definitely start with like just doing mantras and affirmations in the mirror, like looking at yourself and really being able to love on yourself. That's my.
I was going to offer one of my affirmations.
Yes.
I went and got props, because if you've seen office hours before, you know that it is a running joke that I always have props, and Angel always says that they're like a kindergartner. But I have a kindergartner, and he is very smart, so I'm okay with that. So look, I was going to bring my props. Okay, Angel, can I show my props?
Is it kindergartenish?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, good.
So this is my journal that I use. I keep this by my bed. In the morning, I do my gratefuls. I got this from Oprah. She starts and ends her days with gratitude and an intention, right? And I actually just reset my intention while I'm here. But I offer this because Angel and I both are lovers of stationery and journals. And so I love this one because it says, be still. And I think whether you're a thinker, a doer, or a talker, you can wake up with a lot of thoughts in your mind. And I always tell people, there are these, they call them NATs, negative automatic thoughts. And so you can wake up with defeat. And if you can have the time in the morning to be able to reset your mind on something positive, it'll make all the difference. But if you can also start to notice not only when negative thoughts are creeping in, but maybe where they're coming from. That can help you make some of those decisions about who are the people that are supporting you in your self-love journey. So one of the intentions that I set that is around just that self-love, so I offer these to you. One is, may I experience the peace that happiness brings. Right? Sometimes we don't even set that as an intention. And then the other one was, I have a healthy relationship with my body, mind, and soul. So like you said, really centering it around yourself, not around others. And then the other prop that I want to offer is I put my intentions because I'm not always at home. So I have them on my mirror, but I have these little note cards and I keep them on here. And one that I have given to Angel that I think we both love is, I am what I want and I attract what I am. Right? And just this belief that you are enough. That's another one. I am enough. But we know that energy is everything and everything is energy. And so I totally offer that to you to take any of these affirmations. And can I give them one more?
Yes.
I surrender to the Creator, you, the powerful universe, and will let you work your magic and divine timing to deliver what is already mine. And so just, I think there is a piece that comes with self-love that this is a part of the journey too. I think for any of us, if you see somebody on the other side of the valley, right, to use Angels when you're in the valley, you've seen anybody who's gotten unstuck, you had to take action in that moment to get out of it. I've never, even the person who said they stay in a relationship for 30 years wasn't inactive, fair. She was doing a lot, So I think that is the point, that self-love is making that commitment that you're going to take action even when you're in pain, even when you're lost, even when you're sad, and knowing that it's because you are worth it. You're worth being happy. You're worth being aligned. So we got another comment here. I believe it's directed at Angel. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, she said, proud of the woman that you have become. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I would say this, Meredith, and I actually get this, I believe, from you in regards to you have to take some responsibility in your own rescue.
Yeah, you have to participate in your own rescue.
That's it, yeah. So I think a lot of times we wait around for other people to validate us and tell us, okay, this is how you need to go about it. Sometimes, and so we truly appreciate you all for sharing your personal experiences. And Sheila said, thanks, ladies. This information was so powerful. I truly appreciate you. No, that's awesome. So grateful that you found value in the conversation. We are winding down to our last few minutes. If you have any questions or comments, please, please, please share them. We would love to take any last minute questions before we wrap up today's conversation. Meredith has to get on a plane and go back to the snow. But
I gotta say it like that. Jeez.
Well, I only have
I'm
one
gonna be back at an ocean soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, I think I'll be in Minnesota next week. So.
Oh my gosh. Hopefully it won't snow before then.
Yes. All right. So I think that there was a lot that we discussed. And if you don't take anything else from this, I think that it's just imperative that you know what it is that you need. You're able to clearly identify what love looks like to you. And we didn't really talk about it here, but those 5 love languages, which one resonates with you?
Yes. What's your love language, Angel?
Take a guess. Does everybody know what the love languages are? So there's words of affirmation, there's touch, there is
quality time,
acts of service, quality time, and gifts.
Yes. What's yours?
That's what I said. Which one do you think I am?
Well, I said words of affirmation. You acted like you didn't hear me, so I
didn't hear you. No, definitely words of affirmation. Not
So you just have
words of
one.
affirmation around my work, not words of affirmation validating Angel, though. Because I think there's a difference.
Oh, you said not words of affirmation around your work. Words of affirmation about...
No. Words of affirmation around my work, not words of
Oh.
affirmation about Angel per se.
Oh, wow. That's insightful.
Don't worry, you do it all the time.
Do I? Oh,
Yes.
I try to. They tell me that love is my is one of my gifts. I think mine is quality time.
Yeah, I could see that. I like
words of affirmation.
I would say words of I'm words of affirmation and acts of service. Like, show me, don't tell me, because anybody can say stuff.
Yeah.
So Sheila said that she's affirmation and service. Let's see. Danielle joined the conversation again and said, exactly, for me, it's less about getting compliments on my physical appearance from my husband and more about my character, drive, intelligence, and passion. That turns me on. Yay! Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to know, you got to guide them. You got to direct the ship. Otherwise, it's going to crash and burn, and they're going to be like, yo, what happened? You just said words of affirmation. You have to be able to really articulate and identify what exactly is what you need, what feeds your soul.
Yes. Like, I particularly like quality time on an island that's tropical, that is like that. In case you're watching, no. But I do think that it does take that, again, that level of self-awareness. And Angel, can I just close this out with, I thought it is kind of fitting. In Getting Unstuck, I take you through your week of possibilities. And Tuesday, which is today, is about relationships. How kismet is that? I didn't even realize that. So if this is you, if you're watching this and it's Tuesday, can I, Angel, do I have your permission to close us out with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, today is about the energy and motivation you have to create and maintain for personal connections. Remember, relationships come in all forms. So some things to think about are, who would you spend more time with if you had unlimited time and money? If today's assignment feels overwhelming, try mapping out your relationships. Think about, who have you seen in the last 7 days and in the last month? And who have you spoken to on the phone in the last week and the last month? Think about, where do you feel energized and uplifted? Who is around you when you feel that way? And how often are you really with your loved ones? So, just some pieces to offer. I love that we've had this conversation, and I would love to ask if this is a conversation people want more of, so I can sufficiently prepare myself.
No, I think it was great. I think that it was a great transition from the Vision 2020 retreat. I am grateful that everybody, a lot of people shared their stories, shared their experiences. We truly appreciate that. And yeah, like, we're going to close out with that and say thank you all for being with us. And just be intentional as you go throughout your week and how you, fulfill and manifest the things that are truly important to you. I had something else that I was going to say.
Well, you think of that, you can go to gettingunstuckguide.com and you can get that 7-day. I'll walk you through with the questions not only about relationships, but about your money, thinking about your career, and your health. So that's a free thing, and it's there for you. If this is a journey that you're in the process of taking, but it might be a little fearful to take it by yourself. So it's a gentle, guided questions.
Love it. All right, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of Office Hours. We enjoyed you all. We hope that next year you will join us at the conference. It was amazing. And yes, please be sure to share this. That's what I was going to say. If you know people who will find this conversation valuable, please be sure to share it with people on your timeline. The information is gettingunstuckguide.com. That's where you can learn more information about Meredith's book. And then we also have our newsletter. Meredith will post a link in the comments about how you can sign up and make sure that you are abreast of all of our upcoming Getting Unstuck. What is this called? Office Hours programming, and we may even start doing some events. So stay tuned to that. Be sure to subscribe, and yes, we will see you next week at our regular time. That's not the mailing list.
Angel.
Okay.
No, that was, she was asking about the 7-day. I was going to say, where can they go to find out about the retreat?
For information about the woman behind the business, you can go to wbbtalk.com. The retreat information from this year is still up, so as we unfold the new information for next year, it will be posted there. All right, ladies, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want more information, Meredith has shared it in the comments. For information about her book, you can go to gettingunstuckguide.com. If you want information about Side Hustle to Main Hustle, you can go to angelandlivas.com. All right, ladies, have a wonderful week. We will see you next week back at our original time, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. And yes, have a blessed week. Bye-bye.